21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
So I went from college dropout to now having one of the world's fastest growing home service and trades franchises. So much so, it caught the attention of Codie Sanchez. And now together, we are building the coolest blue collar franchise that has ever existed. And we're bringing dignity back to the trades. A lot of times the blue collar trades, for us, it's home service trades, have been seriously overlooked as real opportunities. I think a lot of millennials wanted desk jobs where they could stare at a computer screen, or at least that's what they thought they wanted. But they're realizing that working in marketing or working in some of these roles just isn't as fulfilling as they thought it would be. Being stuck behind a screen isn't as fulfilling as they thought it would be. And now they're starting to look at other options. There are boomers selling their businesses in these home services. There's also amazing franchise opportunities like ours in home services, and people are really starting to pay attention to it. And it's because it is a way to build steady cash flow for the business owner. It's a way to create freedom and wealth in your life and for your family. Doing something that's kind of boring. It's painting houses, washing windows, fixing a garage door. That's the type of stuff that our franchises do. But you can build teams. You don't have to know anything about paint. You don't have to know anything about window cleaning necessarily to get into it. Because when you get into a franchise system, you get taught a lot of that stuff, and you get taught how to hire people who already know how to fix a garage door, and you're building a business. And we build scalable businesses, not just something that is for one employer and an owner. We can build businesses that take over entire regions. That's the type of stuff we do at ResiBrands. We are trying to build the greatest home service companies in each city in America. That One Painter is our first brand. We now are over 400 total territories across the US. And we tell everybody, search painters in my city and then look at who's the number one reviewed. Do they have 300 reviews, 400, 800 reviews? Screenshot that and start dreaming about beating them. How could you build the biggest painting company in your city or the biggest window cleaning company in your city? That's what we do at ResiBrands is help people along that journey and that endeavor of trying to build something really massive in the boring business world with blue collar trades. I started in 2011. I had just dropped out of college, got married to a beautiful girl that I met at Bible college, and we got married. I was right after our honeymoon. I called her and said, "Hey, I can't work for this other guy anymore. I need to start my own business." And at that time, I just wanted freedom. I didn't know exactly how big I could build something, but I knew that I was capable of at least providing for myself and my wife. And so I got her on board. We literally had $12 in our bank account. And I started painting houses for people. And ultimately what I knew was that if I could make a customer really happy with the work that I did, they would talk about me and I would get more work. And it happened quickly. I would knock on doors sometimes. I would call real estate agents and meet with them and earn their work as well. But I knew that if I went all in on customer service, that customers would talk about me. I would get a lot more work. And that's exactly how I grew my business. Pretty quickly, I was hiring multiple friends of mine to start painting houses. I was teaching them how to paint. Eventually, I started hiring other professional painters and got them on my team as well and built out several crews. But the thing about making a customer really happy, because I could just say that and you could maybe come up with a few ideas of what that would look like. But there's a key word that I think is really important in home services, and it's the word thoughtfulness. So many businesses, especially when they're servicing people's homes, they lack thoughtfulness. They might be professional, they might do a decent job, but there's an element of thoughtfulness. If you can really at all times remember that it is their home, it never stops being their home when it becomes your project, and you prioritize that in your mind, and you're thoughtful towards them, you're thoughtful towards their pets, you're thoughtful towards the things that they own, literally their furniture, their floors, the home itself, and you show a lot of respect, you can go a really long way. And some of the things that we like to focus on is doing little extra things, because like the work we do, we typically have the ladder out. And so one of the things we teach all of our franchisees, and I've always taught my employees and painters and team members, is when you have the ladder out, look around and ask them, is there anything else I could take care of for you while I have the ladder out? Is there any light bulbs that you want switched out? Is there any smoke detector batteries that need swapped out? Is there any high ledges or chandeliers that I could dust off for you? That tiny little bit of extra thoughtfulness, like it only takes you 5 minutes. You already have the ladder out anyways because you're painting the ceilings or whatever, and you just do that little bit of extra, customers go crazy for it. They go crazy over it and they start talking about you. And that's actually right there. That's the secret to referral marketing. People don't realize that the secret to referral marketing isn't some app or survey or request for a referral that you can try to get your customers to refer you to their friend. It's not paying the customers, or offering them gift cards to get them to refer you. That's not the secret. Those are all just gimmicks. The secret to referral marketing is to give them a story to tell. And a lot of people miss this in home services. They miss it in business altogether, because the truth is we only talk about really great things and really bad things. When things are just normal, average, and mundane, or when things are just as you kind of expected, you don't talk about it. So if I paint your house and I do an okay job and we clean up and you're happy enough with the work, you'll pay me and I'll get to cash that check and move on to the next job, but you're probably not going to refer me. It's when I give you a story to tell, when we go above and beyond, when we do little extra free services, when the painters are really kind and brought dog treats for the dog. It's these little things like we do, like at the end of every project in Austin, Texas, for my team, at the end of every project, we bring them some swag and a crumble cookie. Why? Because I love crumble cookies. I think they're delicious. And people are happier after they eat sugar. Like that's just a known fact. Like one of my project managers went out to a job the other day, wrapped up the job, got the check from the customer. He's like, hey, I've got something for you. The project manager runs out to his truck, brings him some swag and a crumble cookie. This older gentleman opens up the cookie, had never had a crumble cookie, takes a bite out of it, smiles really big and says, I was going to paint the exterior of my house next year, because we had just finished the interior of his house. And he says, I was going to paint my exterior next year, but you know what? I'm in a good mood. Why don't you go ahead and give me a quote for this exterior as well? And so we ended up selling him on the exterior as well. He got a deposit check. So he ends up going there, walking it, finishing the interior job, gives him a cookie. The guy's so happy, he hires us to paint the outside of his house too, and has now also referred us to his neighbor. That is the power of referral marketing. It's the power of giving them a story to tell. How often do you hire a painter and you get a crumble cookie at the end? Probably not that often. And how often do you hire a painter and they do little extra things around your house for free? Probably not that often. And so you're giving them a story to tell. And that's what we built our company on. We also do, as a home service company, we do digital marketing and all sorts of great things like that too. But referral marketing, customers who are raving fans of you, telling your story and talking about you all the time is really the most powerful thing. And I tell all my team members and franchisees, look, when you're done with that job that evening and for the next week, that customer is going to be talking about something. It could be the weather, it could be sports, it could be something that happened in their family. Why not make it you? Right? You're going to be fresh on their memory. So do something that stands out and make it you that they talk about for the next week. That's how you get a lot of referrals. As I was growing my company, I noticed that what we were doing was unique. And a lot of customers even mentioned to me, hey, you should franchise, or have you ever thought about expanding to other cities? I started to get comments like that, or sometimes even questions like that. And so I really started to write down everything that I believed about home services. Everything I originally was in painting, but a lot of these principles and tactics that we used, myself and my team, were true of most home services. And so I just started documenting all the processes. I started documenting a lot of the stories, a lot of the techniques, and started building basically manuals and training. And originally, I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to get into franchising. I was just honestly thinking about expanding for myself into more cities. And then I fell in love with franchising when I read a book called The E-Myth. And the E-Myth, really by the end of that book, it convinces you that one of the absolute best business models is franchising. And the reason is that when you have a really great brand and a system that works, a brand that customers trust, and a system that almost any employee can follow, that's really the best product itself. And you can, instead of building something just for yourself, you can build your brand by empowering other people to become business owners, build legacy and wealth for themselves as well, using your system and your brand. And so I just fell in love with it because it was a way for me to build my brand, which I wanted to do. But it was also a way for me to empower and coach and teach, which were things that I really love doing. And so now, fast forward, we started franchising in what was it, 2021? So it's been 3 years. In the last 3 years, between our three brands, we've almost 600 total units between That One Painter, Pinks, and Garage Up. And we have two new brands, Action Exteriors, which is roofing and siding. That's about to go live this month. And then we have a handyman concept that'll be ready next year. And so we have 5 total brands, 2 of them just about to get going on franchising. And we're building something special. And we know that these systems work, and we build eye-catching, memorable brands. People have told me for well over a decade now that they don't forget the name That One Painter, because it's literally, if you go, what was that one painter's name? They literally immediately say the name just by trying to remember the name. And Garage Up is doing well, and Pinks is this brand that we partnered with and brought in under the Resi umbrella, and they had a phenomenal brand that really sticks out with really good social media, and people remember it. It's different than any other window cleaning company they've ever seen. And so we have brands that stick out with systems and processes that any hardworking employee can follow and be successful. I've been a huge fan of Codie Sanchez for about two years, maybe a little longer, and found her content to be really helpful. And so one day I'm just sitting there at work or whatever, and I get a LinkedIn message, and it's from Codie Sanchez, and she had seen us. We were briefly, for like a few minutes, kind of featured on My First Million, where they were talking about ResiBrands and what we're doing with Pinks. And she saw that, reached out to us, and they did an email newsletter on our brand that did well. And then she reached out again and said, hey, let's do a video. So she came out to do a video on ResiBrands and Pinks. And, during that time where she was interviewing me, I just talked about my vision for home services. I talked about why I love franchising. That I believe buying out, maybe a retiring boomer's business is really great, but it can also be really hard and take a long time to find the right deal. And that for some people, franchising might be easier. And I could kind of see her wheels turning. And so at the end of the day, she was done filming with Resi and she was done filming with Pinks. She sent me a text and said, basically, I love what you guys are doing. I'd love to discuss a partnership. And so that led to a few months of due diligence, and we did a partnership, and she's now co-owner in Resi, and we are working together to scale we want to build the biggest and greatest home service and trades franchise in the world. And I believe we will, over the next 5 to 10 years, achieve that. Um, been a roller coaster ride, and it's a lot of fun. And what's crazy is that people think that you need to go out and find that person to promote your brand or do a lot of things to get attention. And the truth is that if you just focus on the craft for a while, like for me, it was focusing on the craft of painting for a good amount of time. And then we started franchising. We got to multiple brands. And the craft for me was doing my very best to support franchisees. Now, franchisees are ultimately responsible for their own business. It's their business to run, and I can't make their daily decisions for them. But I wanted to give them every resource and tool and vendor that I could to help them be really successful. And I knew that if I focused on that and just did everything that I could to help them as franchisees, that people would notice. And my recommendation to people, because I get asked all the time, how did you get this Codie Sanchez deal and all that? I'm like, my recommendation is just build something you're really proud of. Just focus on that for a while. Don't worry so much about the attention or getting onto the map. Just build, focus, and think of it as a craft and do it as good as you possibly can. People will eventually notice. And that's really how that deal came apart, came together, and how I would recommend to other people to focus on their craft, and I think you'll get some pretty cool things happening to you. Here's something I believe about: as you're going to grow as a human, as you're going to grow a business, building a business is very difficult. Like, getting into a franchise system helps simplify it and helps you get ahead, but it does not mean it's going to be easy. Building any business whatsoever is going to be hard. You're going to have bad days, bad months, sometimes a whole bad year. It's really important that you have a lot of mental grit. And the way to do that is like, everybody's going to struggle with their thoughts. You're gonna have days you want to quit. I tell franchisees all the time, somewhere between month 4 and 8, you're gonna call me or your business coach, and you're gonna say, "Look, I want to throw in the towel." Like, it happens to everyone. You're not alone. It happens to the best of them. And there's a bit of mental grit that really is required. And what happens, and I think Alex Hormozy said this really well, he says that it doesn't get easier, you just get better. But there's one thing that I think is really important for people to understand, is that you may have a lot going on in your mind, but you need to be really careful with what you speak. And because when you speak things or write them down, they tend to become more likely to become reality. And so work through things, but keep your words and keep whatever you write down. If you journal, if you're emailing people, if you're texting your friends, careful what you write down. Careful what you say out loud. Because you might have fear, you might have doubt in your mind. That's okay. That's normal. But if you start saying, "Hey, this business is going to fail," guess what? It's going to fail. If you say, "Hey, this is a bad month, but I'm going to get past it," you're going to get past it. What you start to speak and say will become the reality. And that, I don't know, I'm not saying like, hey, manifesting. I'm not into a lot of that kind of like necessary. I'm not necessarily into that as a whole, but I will tell you that I notice what I start to speak and what I start to say, and what I write down is way more likely to become real. And I've noticed this too. So that's not just the negative side of like, don't speak badly about your business or your goals. Keep saying positive things. But also, I think a lot of people are scared to say their actual dreams, to speak out their actual vision. And sometimes it's because they're worried about what somebody might think of them. Like, oh, you're too ambitious. You think too highly of yourself. Oh, you're never going to be able to accomplish that. Who cares what they say? And I ask franchisees, I ask people I know in business all the time, what are your real goals? And I want to see what they'll say. And most of the time, they won't give me the real goal up front. They're going to give me some other version, some toned down, more realistic version, because they won't say out loud, at least at the beginning, what their real goal is. And, I think that you need to have big, hairy, audacious goals, as they say, right? You need to, and then you need to say it. Keeping it in your mind is not enough. Write it down. I put it on my Instagram description or whatever quite a long time ago, building a $1 billion franchise system. I put that a long time ago when we're not even close, and we're still a long ways away. But I put it down because I knew that by saying it, or by writing it down, we're more likely to achieve it. And you're more likely to attract people who will help you achieve it, or who will help you learn certain lessons so that you can achieve it. So I can't stress this enough. Don't speak out the negativity and don't write it down. Instead, focus on what you really believe and what you're able to do, and speak it and say it and write it down, and you'll see a huge difference in your life. And the more I'm around other like successful people there's many people I've met that are far more successful than me, they all say the same thing. Like, it is wild how important mindset and what you speak how important it actually is, and a lot of people miss it. I'm trying to build a billion or multi-billion dollar business. Long term, my goals are to help make the world a better place. I believe I'm already doing that, because I believe that we need more small businesses all over America where people are taking power back into their hands and freedom back in our hands. I think it's better for the American economy. I think it's better for our nation as a whole. I think it's better for American families. So by offering a great franchise system, we are helping people achieve the American dream and improving the American economy. But more than that, for me personally, it's really important that we give back. So we do something called Paint It Forward for That One Painter, where we paint, every one of our franchisees paints a home for free for a family in need or a nonprofit every year. A lot of our franchisees will even do it 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a year. It's a big part of who we are. And then I personally have spent a lot of time working with nonprofits in Africa, and my parents and my grandparents were missionaries. And so as I'm able to do more financially and also with my time, my goals are to make a lot of money and spend it making the world a better place. If you are at all interested in building a large and prominent home service business in your city, whether that's with any one of our brands, I want you to go to ResiBrands.com and pick your brand, explore it a little bit, and schedule a call with one of my team members.
21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Imagine a space where triumphs, trials, and tales of entrepreneurship come alive. Welcome to the 21st Century Entrepreneurship Podcast, a gold awarded journey hosted by Martin Piskarik, connecting with listeners in 95 countries and ranking in the top 0.5% of all podcasts. Join our exclusive community, elevate your perspective, and embark on the path to success.